Nostalgia marketing. How brands weaponize your childhood memories. Have you ever seen an old logo, cartoon, or snack from your childhood and suddenly felt an urge to buy it? Maybe a retro video game console, a vintage soda can, or a pair of 90s sneakers. That warm, emotional feeling? It's not random. Brands are deliberately triggering something in your brain called nostalgia marketing, a psychological strategy designed to bypass logic and activate emotional memory. You think you're buying a product, but psychologically, you're buying a piece of your past. Nostalgia works like a psychological Trojan horse. Instead of convincing your logical brain that a product is useful, brands trigger emotional memories stored in the hippocampus, the brain's memory center. These memories are linked with feelings of safety, identity, and belonging. So when you see something from your childhood, a color palette, a logo, a sound, your brain releases dopamine and comfort signals. Suddenly, the product feels trustworthy and familiar, not because it's better, but because it feels like home. Psychologists discovered something fascinating called the reminiscence bump. Humans tend to remember events between ages 15 and 25 far more vividly than any other period of life. Why? Because this is when we experience many firsts. First friendships, first music we love, first independence, first identity. The hippocampus stores these experiences with strong emotional weight, and brands know this. Marketing teams literally analyze birth year demographics to calculate which decade their target audience grew up in. If they're targeting people in their 30s today, they revive 90s aesthetics. If they're targeting millennials, they bring back early 2000s culture. It's not random, it's calculated psychology, real examples of nostalgia marketing. One of the biggest examples was when Nintendo released the Nintendo Classic Mini NES. It looked exactly like the 1980s console many people grew up with. Within months, it sold millions of units worldwide. People weren't buying cutting-edge technology. They were buying their childhood memories. Another example, Coca-Cola constantly releases retro packaging, vintage glass bottles, old logos, classic advertising styles. Sales spike because consumers associate the design with simpler times. Fashion does this too. Brands like Nike and Adidas regularly bring back retro sneakers from the 80s and 90s, and suddenly old designs become trendy again, not because they're new, but because they feel emotionally familiar. Entire fashion trends today, like Y2K aesthetics, exist because nostalgia sells. The most powerful nostalgia marketing doesn't just use images, it uses sensory anchors, old-school graphics, low-resolution visuals, vintage color palettes, retro sound effects. Even fonts and packaging shapes can trigger memory networks in your brain. Your brain processes these cues before your logical thinking kicks in. That's why sometimes you feel nostalgia instantly, before you even realize why. Your brain recognized the memory pattern first. Why this matters for us and understanding nostalgia marketing actually gives you a powerful advantage. First, it helps you avoid impulse buying. When you suddenly want something from your childhood, you can ask, do I want the product or just the feeling? Second, nostalgia can actually be used positively. In everyday life, people use nostalgia to build emotional connections. Old songs with friends, childhood stories and conversations, shared cultural references, these trigger the same emotional bonding mechanisms. It's one of the fastest ways humans build trust. So the next time a retro logo or childhood product suddenly makes you feel warm inside, remember, it might look like marketing, but psychologically, it's your memories being activated on purpose.